One fall practice down, one big storyline down, and am I just dead wrong about one of these position battles? Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for kicking off your day with us here at Locked On Spartans of the Locked On Podcasting Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you are feeling about the first day of practice, this kickoff. Feel like it's in the air for you too. And also go ahead and make any of the other Locked On Network shows your second listen after this one. Like, hey, go check our guy out, Greg Sheeman of Locked On Big Ten right after this one. Also, any mailbag questions, lockedonspartans@gmail.com is the place to find us. And let's get into it because, guys, I know the calendar right now as we record reads July 30th, but it might as well be August 30th because it really seems like kickoff is just around the corner. Michigan State kicking off their first of 25 fall practices on this beautiful Tuesday. And we've got one big storyline already down. We talked about a lot of storylines yesterday with Dalton Shetler of the Spartan Media Network. The biggest one that I had is, hey, how is this team going to look health-wise before they even finish lacing their cleats up? Okay, we've done a lot of off seasons where there's been injuries, whether it's spring camp, whether it's heading into fall camp or throughout fall camp. We've seen our share of injuries, not just in the season, but out of season too. And there were some injuries that we had to keep an eye on at some very important positions. And folks, I'm happy to announce, I'm happy to say that defensive tackle Alex VanSumeren, he was fully prepared today to go. Cole Dellinger, Gavin Brocious, and Stanton Ramil, all offensive linemen that were full goes at practice. And also Brendan Parachek. He sat out of the spring showcase back in the spring, but tight end Brendan Parachek, he was a full go at practice today too, a full participant, that is. So why is this important, especially for the first four names that we just rattled off? Alex VanSumeren, Cole Dellinger, Gavin Brocious, Stanton Ramil. All right, why is that so important? Maybe for names that maybe some State fans don't even know out there. I mean, by and large, these are guys that are on the two deep. All right, these are second stringers that we're talking about. Potentially, some might even be fighting to make the second string, but it is important because depth, as you know, if you've been listening to this show, is going to be a storyline this season, specifically in the trenches. Both offensive and defensive line are going to have some depth question marks going into the season. Right now, we'll start the defensive line side of the ball, okay? You have Maverick Hansen, Daquan Dowse. Those are your two presumed starters. Maverick Hansen, been here for so long that he's actually still a Mark D'Antonio recruit, the only one remaining with this program. But yeah, he's been around the block for a little bit. He's going to get his starting an opportunity by all accounts this upcoming fall. Daquan Dowse, big transfer out of Georgia Tech. Okay, so that's your starters. The backups, it's a mix between, all right, you got some veteran guys that may have hit their ceiling already or young, promising talent, but for the most part, again, a question mark going into the season. Here is your second string right now for defensive tackle. Ben Roberts, a.k.a. Big Worm out of Oregon. Sure, came here as a four-star transfer from Oregon. He's had a lot of fanfare about him. He still has only played 34 snaps in his college career. Ruquan Buckley from Nebraska. Okay, he ended his season last year with the Cornhuskers as an offensive lineman. What kind of player are you going to get out of him from the defensive line? Also, Jalen Satch from Old Dominion. Can he make it happen at the power four level? We just don't know. So, Alex VanSumeren, former four-star, former top 250 kid, a kid that's already had two big leg injuries in his career so far. He missed all of last season, and you're starting to wonder, okay, is he going to be a full go for this fall? Can he finally have a healthy fall camp ahead of him and go into a season and compete to be an important defensive tackle? Because, well, guys, you can't have a former top 250 kid compete to be on the two deep if he's not healthy. And he hasn't been his whole career, but he is at least kicking off fall camp as a full participant. This unit needs someone to step up. All right, you feel comfortable with who you have at the starters, right? Like Maverick Hansen, Daquan Dowse. That's fine. That's solid. They can't play every single snap the entire year. You need someone behind them, and to have Alex VanSumeren throw his hat into the ring, all right, that's only going to make for more optimism going into the season. Maverick Hansen also had a pretty optimistic quote about the defensive tackle position, but more on that later because we got to talk the offensive line. Now, obviously, having the guys like Stanton Ramil, Gavin Brocious, and Cole Dellinger, 3 guys that had big injuries last year, having them helps for depth, maybe even pushing some of the starters if you want to go that far. I, for one, don't think that anyone here is a starting candidate, but that's not important. We've learned last year and the season before that and pretty much the last few seasons here in East Lansing, it helps to have offensive line depth. We're talking just the second stringers, even the third stringers it would get to sometimes. So just to have those 3 guys is one thing. The second, though, when it comes to offensive line depth or just the offensive line as a whole, maybe I'm wrong about one of the position groups that we talked about yesterday with Dalton Shetler. We talked about secondary. We talked about the defensive line. We talked about, hey, who's going to be that second and third receiver here for Michigan State? Offensive line really doesn't have much drama around it. Or does it? Because we went out to Twitter. I said, hey, as MSU football opens up camp today, what's the most important position battle that's going to take place? Defensive line, corners, wide receivers are the 3 options I gave, or other. Defensive line dominated, 43% of the votes. Cornerbacks, 34% of the votes. Wide receiver, 13.4%, and other just got about 9%. But it was an overwhelming response to who we missed out on. A lot of people said offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. We need a solid core group if this team wants to make a bowl game, said Alex. RBK said O-line, their development will be important in keeping Chiles healthy all season. So maybe it's with how people interpreted that question, because when I say position battle, I'm thinking battle for who is going to be a starter. And I think right now, it's pretty cut and dry. It's going to be your 2 tackles are going to be Ashton Lepo at right tackle, Brandon Baldwin over at the left tackle. In the middle, Luke Newman, the FCS All-American transfer from Holy Cross, Tanner Miller, that transfer from Oregon State, and then Christian Phillips. I think that's a pretty solid group right there for your starters. But maybe position battles to, some of you out there think, okay, well, who's going to be in that 2 deep, which fair, because it is worth talking about. And really quick quote from Jonathan Smith on Luke Newman today saying, quote, he got some reps at guard today. He got some reps at center today. So maybe that starting 5 offensive line isn't as sturdy as I thought it was. Maybe there is going to be some variation in the middle there. We will have to wait and see. But the 2 deep right now, okay, you have Dallas Fincher. That's your only guy in the 2 deep right now with college experience, believe it or not. And then behind them, okay, Cole Dellinger, Gavin Brocious, who had that really bad leg injury last year. Stanton Ramil also missing the season last year with a leg injury. And then, former walk-on Jacob Merritt. You saw him in the spring showcase. Was he in the 2 deep because, he's legitimately that good to be in the 2 deep, or is that just out of necessity? And then Andrew Dennis, he is an interior offensive lineman, but could you see him pop out and play some tackle? You just might need him to, even as a true freshman. So this is a comment we got from YouTuber No Galzerk. I hope I said that right, No Galzerk. Got to cover Cole Dellinger if possible. He's a kid with high 3-star next to his name, and he might have to be a name that we bring up time and time again this upcoming fall and the rest of summer too, because at 6'4", 301 pounds, that's up 20 pounds from his senior high school season. So he's already physically built there. Yes, he was a top 40 interior offensive lineman. So this is going to be an important guy to keep your eye on. So if you are someone out there here's the words position battle, and you just even bring that back to, okay, well, who's going to be battling the 2 deep? Cole Dellinger is going to be one right there. But that is one big storyline under our belts. That's 4 guys missed serious time, if not the entire season last year with injuries. Okay, they are going to be back. Full participants in fall, barring any other injuries. Let me knock on wood right there. But that's going to bode well for the depth and, hey, you know what, forming a 2 deep right here. So there we go. There was some of the trench talk right there. We're going to have more to say about what took place at the first fall camp. But first, need to talk your ears off about Factor Foods. That is right, gang. Hey, you know what? Warmer, sunnier days, they are here. So fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for the rest of summer, thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you will always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you start your new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you will always have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options, and many of these can just be prepared in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. It is all there for you. So head to factormeals.com/lockedon50 and use code LOCKEDONCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LOCKEDONCollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Folks, also Gametime. Got to talk about the greatest ticketing app out there. You already know why I love Gametime, because they're all about saving you money, whether it's their flash deals that they have going on throughout the week. If you know you're going to go to a ticketed event later on in the week, well, hop on. And now is the perfect time to save at great sections. Or if you're a procrastinator, well, the last-minute ticket deals over at Gametime, they are going to hook you up. And, hey, you know what? There's a bonus reason why I love Gametime. They don't play games with you. They don't run you through 28 different hoops. You think you have $7 tickets, and then after 15 clicks, why is there $33 worth of fees on top of this? No, they are upfront, transparent. They are not going to surprise you at the last minute. So download the Gametime app today. Start saving money right off the bat when you create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. It's last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Back to the practice field here, because Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports, this was his number one observation that he tweeted out when he was at practice today, writing, quote, "Just got out of practice number one. Jaylen Thompson is now working as a strong side end after being a rush end in the spring." So that is certainly, one of the bigger notables that you can point out on top of all the health that Michigan State is starting practice with this season. Just like Stephen mentioned, this is a guy that, not only practice at rush edge, but many people, like myself included, figured that he would be the leader in the clubhouse to play that rush position. Now, what that is, of course, you're going to rush the passer. I'm sure anyone can figure that out. But Joe Rossi pops that position back into pass coverage sometime. It's a very fluid position, a lot of hybrid aspects to it. And so what this means, could someone else be stepping up into this role, like Indiana transfer Anthony Jones? Maybe he's ready already. Tyler Gilson from Cincinnati, perhaps. But I don't know, you go around, you look, and it's like, well, Chris Bogle, can he play rush edge? I see more of him as a strong side defensive end, just like Jaylen Thompson is now at, as things stand. Of course, things are fluid. Thompson can always bounce back to that rush edge. Or Quindarius Dunnigan, is he going to be that rush? Although I have a hard time believing that, since he floats more in the 275-poundish range. And traditionally, Joe Rossi, at least back at Minnesota, that rush edge was humming somewhere around 230 pounds because, well, you got to be quick enough to drop back into pass coverage. So this is one of the bigger storylines, if not the biggest storyline for the defense this offseason, is seeing who will play that rush edge position, because it's going to be important, not just for getting after the quarterback, applying pressure, but just being that versatile player that is a key element in the Joe Rossi system. Now, Steven also did right at the end of that tweet. That's about it in terms of notable observations, in my opinion. But Steven, come on. There's always more observations that we have. We already talked about health, but now we're going to go to the podium. We're going to go to the microphone, because there was just a little bit of quotes that we want to hit on here. Maverick Hansen, he was one of the players that got to speak with the media today. And he said, hey, you know what? It feels like 8 defensive tackles can play. So, yes, we are on the panicky side of defensive tackle depth. All right, we're not, too overly optimistic about what it looks like behind Maverick Hansen, behind Daquan Dowse. Yes, you might get someone out of Ben Roberts, Alex VanSumeren, Ben Nelson, if you want to throw on the former walk-on out there. But can you get enough players to fill out that room, fill out that depth? Clearly, Maverick Hansen thinks so, okay? He also said he likens this season to being at a new program. That's how many new faces there are. That's how new this defense is going to be. Also saying, quote, it's such a different defense going against such a different offense. So for all Spartan fans out there, myself included, that was a breath of fresh air, hearing that it's a pretty drastic difference than what we're used to the last season or two. So that's always welcome here, because, my God, we could use a little shakeup here. And it seems like that is what we got going here. Now, out of the trenches, God, we spent a lot of time with the trench talk here for a good reason. It's going to be a very important component of this season. But Jonathan Smith said, quote, Jaron Glover has taken a nice step in his game. Nick Marsh continues to grow. He also said he doesn't really want to talk in a way that it's going to cement anyone into a position in the depth chart. He doesn't want to shine them up too much and, make it seem like they are already the presumed starters. But not only does that quote not help, but Montorie Foster also spoke to the media, calling Nick Marsh, quote unquote, special. We're fired up about this top 150 recruit, right? Like, if you've listened to us, it's not some grand sweeping hot take, but we just don't think Nick Marsh is going to be good here in East Lansing. We think he's going to be great, okay, just from his skill set right off the bat, but more importantly, what he immediately offers to this wide receiver room, a 6'4" frame. Yes, just a true freshman. Yes, he is still far from his ceiling, but at least at his floor, that's a big-bodied receiver, something Michigan State doesn't have a lot of this season, and someone even in high school can high point the ball very well. So it seems like that, yes, he's going to be getting some serious run. What we saw in the spring showcase wasn't just a mirage. It wasn't just a one-off. You can count on true freshman Nick Marsh to be an important part of this offense. So we'll see what that means for how they come out on the field to start the game. We talked about this yesterday with Dalton Shetler. While, yes, it might be Foster, Glover, and Marsh, there's still going to be some slot receiver component, and we didn't get any inkling of who is in the lead for that slot receiver position yet. Should they deploy a slot receiver on the field ever? They will. It's a Jonathan Smith, Brian Lindgren offense, but stay tuned for the rest of fall practice. But yes, that was nice to hear about Nick Marsh. Other notes really quick, guys. First scrimmage will be a week from Saturday, and then we're going to go back to Stephen Brooks' Twitter right here because I hope you're all sitting down for this one. Very important update, especially for you video game heads out there. Stephen Brooks writes, quote, very important post-practice update. Linebacker Cal Haladay isn't in college football 2025 because he forgot to opt in before the deadline. Said he hasn't played the game, but is going to try to get added into the next update. So there are a handful of players that didn't get into college football 2025. You can speculate all you want how or why that happened. Well, there is one answer right there. Cal Haladay, I feel that spiritually, he just simply forgot to before the deadline. So Lord knows I've been there many a times. So good luck to him to get in the next update. So that's it for the first practice. Again, mostly a syllabus day, really. I mean, they're not, going full bore, full contact at these practices early on. They're going to start that pretty soon here in the near future, but this is the first day for a lot of these players too, like Luke Newman. That was his first practice. Transfer from Arizona State, Ed Woods. This is going to be the first practice for a lot of freshmen, too, the guys that weren't early enrollees. And really quick, it wasn't a full bill of health for Michigan State. Peyton Stewart, Raheem Johnson, they're both at practice, but they only had their helmets on. So those are two true freshman offensive linemen that were not participants at practice today, just for the heads up. So we're going to go over to the mailbag here to round out this show. Coach Chris is going to bat leadoff here, because he has a question about quarterback play. And it's a good question, too. It's a very legitimate question here, so buckle up for this one. Just about the only constant I keep hearing about this year's football team is that the quarterback position will be a huge upgrade over last year. I understand that with Kim and Hauser, but is Aidan Chiles really better than Sam Leavitt? Just about every time Leavitt entered the game last year, he moved the ball, and it usually resulted in points, and otherwise one of the worst offenses in the history of the program. That's very nice of you, Coach Chris, to actually say one of the worst offenses in the history of the program. That's nice to leave that in there. He also writes, Leavitt had that swagger and that it factor, and honestly, the last time I was that excited about a Spartan freshman quarterback, his name was Jeff Smoker. Please tell me how Aidan is better than Sam Leavitt. Let it be known that Coach Chris was not one of the folks in 2013 chanting for Damian Terry to come onto the field in 2013 as a true freshman. Taking it back to the Jeff Smoker days, the last time he was this excited. No, Coach Chris, this is all completely legitimate because, look, is there a world where in 1, 2, 3 years that, we look back and Sam Leavitt had the better college career? Maybe he's drafted even higher than Aidan Chiles. Should that day come? Certainly. Well, yes, there is a reality where that happens. And just, to add some fuel onto that fire right there, Arizona State brought in a really strong offensive coordinator. Okay, his name, is Marcus Arroyo. He was the former Oregon coordinator. He took a job, I believe, at Nevada or Utah. One of the Mountain West schools he had a short stint as head coach at, now back in the coordinator game. But back at Oregon, Justin Herbert was his quarterback, so he helped develop him. Sam Leavitt learning under his wing, not too bad for Sam Leavitt. Also, Arizona State running back Cameron Skidabo, not bad. Okay, that is a really strong partner in crime to have in the run game to take some pressure off Sam Leavitt. But you know what, guys? They also have some issues, too, in Tempe. Like their offensive line, ton of injuries last year. Okay, they're not expected to win a ton of games like us. Their skill positions out there, outside of the running back we just mentioned, okay, but we like Sam Leavitt for a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned, Coach Chris, because he had the it factor, he had the strength, the poise. But I also think Chiles has all of that, too. I think Chiles could have done what Sam Leavitt did last year in East Lansing, just that simply. I mean, because what you see out of Aidan Chiles and Sam Leavitt, it's the arm strength. Whether it's throwing 25-yard line to 25-yard line if you're Aidan Chiles, or just the zip on the ball. I know that's not asking a lot, but that's something that the other two quarterbacks didn't have. But what Aidan Chiles has, that Sam Leavitt showed flashes of, but I think it's more of a strength for Aidan Chiles, is the leg, or his legs and the RPO offense that he is in. I also like, to throw fuel onto the Aidan Chiles camp right here, the tight end that he is very comfortable with in Jack Velling. It's going to be a good bailout for him throughout the entire season, kind of get his beak wet in a lot of these games. So I think he's going to be more comfortable in this offense. He already knows it, having played it 1 year last season. So a combination of comfortability already, knowing what to expect from this staff, having targets that he already knows in Jack Velling, and having his legs too in an offense that calls for more RPO than last year, because Leavitt got some yards on his feet. That was more like improvised and, oh my God, I got to run out of this pocket because the offensive line is crumbling right now. So that's why I kind of give the nod to Aidan Chiles. But yes, I do think that it is a very close race between these two guys. And thanks for that question, because that also made me think of last year how Harlan Barnett handled the redshirt situation for Sam Leavitt, and that is one of the most maddening parts of last season. In a season that had a lot of maddening parts. His last game, he used it for 2 passes against Nebraska. Great use there. Gee, wonder why he didn't get a head coach interview. Anyway, all right, we're going to be right back, guys, with a little bit more mailbag question, but first need to talk your ears off about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And best of all, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or it's your hard-earned money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. I'll say that again. I like that line so much. With eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So what are you waiting for out there? Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, back into the mailbag here. Batting next is Ray with a 3-pack of questions here going all over the board. Question number 1, one of your network colleagues hinted that he would discuss Mel Tucker and offer updates, but he never quite came through with the update. Do you have any idea what he's up to now? Driving an Amazon truck, working in the FCS division, the ministry, pro wrestling? If you don't know, irresponsibly speculate and make crap up. I'm not going to speculate and make crap up. We've already, put in enough dirt on the Mel Tucker grave in the last, 9 months ever since that story came out at 1 a.m. that one time. So I will say this, though. I have reason to believe that he is still in the state of Michigan. And maybe that's a shock to you. It was certainly a shock to me. I just figured that he would already be back down south, working some analyst role for some SEC team. So I don't know. But that's all I could offer right now. As of, information I got a few weeks ago, maybe moved, but I think he still is in the mitten state. So if you run into him, say hello, give him a how are you doing? Because, I'm sure he's not the happiest camper these days. All right, number 2, of all the phrases, buzzwords, and repeated sport vomit that gets tossed around in preseason, which is the most annoying? I think I'm most annoyed by the phrase, quote, physical football. Football begins at the line of scrimmage. It's all physical. What say you, Matt? Okay, I'm going to out myself here. I'm a sucker for coaches and players talking about physical football. Because I think there are teams out there that do get a little finesse, and it does work for them. Like, look at Ohio State in the mid-2010s. Like, I don't necessarily think they were overly physical, especially on offense, but they didn't have to be. They were just so fast and speedy. But sometimes preaching physicality sets the tone for your program. Or, hey, if you want to go really niche right now, pound, green pound over here at Michigan State. That goes a long way because this is a team, and maybe this is why I'm eating it up so much this offseason, should anyone talk about physicality or establishing the run, like Jonathan Smith has said, it's because the running game really has left a lot to be desired since Kenneth Walker was here. You can't set up good play action if you don't have a run game. Play action in college football, very important. So, yes, I am a sucker for physical football, as ridiculous as it sounds. My least favorite offseason thing is just any iteration of, you know what, we're hungry this season, or we're focused. Like, yeah, if you're not, you should be fired as a coach, or you as a player should not have a scholarship. Like, it's pretty clear why you guys are here. I hope that you're paying attention and trying your best to focus on the week 1 game. So for recruiting, though, I know you didn't ask this, but for recruiting, I have one quote that kind of just drives me up a wall more than most, and there's a lot in recruiting that can drive you absolutely insane. But for me, it's like, say the 2025 class gets their sixth commit, and someone says, we're not done yet. Or they play that GIF on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever you find GIFs these days, and it says, job's not finished, or we're not done. Like, yeah, no kidding, you're not done with a 6-person class. Like, of course there's going to be at least 10, if not a dozen, if not 15 plus more. So that one for recruiting drives me the craziest. Question number 3 from Ray. If I already asked this, I apologize, but for Hanukkah, I was given a ticket to the MSU versus Prairie View A&M game. Oh, please don't tell me they paid face value for that. Oh, God. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing more fun than a football Saturday early in the season, and it's so much better than when it's just about a sure thing. However, if it's 45-0 at halftime, then what? Prop bets? Get drunk? Move closer to the game by sitting in empty seats? First and foremost, I endorse all 3 of those things you just said, Ray. I do like myself some prop bets, although it's hard to find bets when it's an FBS team versus an FCS team. So you might just have to make some friendly wagers with the friend or family member at that game. Get drunk? Please tell me you're not driving after the game. If you have a designated driver, that might be one way to stomach Prairie View A&M against Michigan State. Now move closer to the game by sitting in empty seats. Come on, I've never once done that. No, don't be ridiculous. But look, there is a spot in my heart for a methodical beatdown. I love it during basketball season. I love it during football season when they do play an FCS team again. Let me knock on just wood really quick before I just jinx us into a triple overtime game against Prairie View A&M. But I like just a stress-free Saturday. It can't be like this every Saturday. Like, you do need some drama. You got to keep the heart in check somehow. But just sit back, relax, enjoy that 45-0 halftime beatdown. And I always go back to this, and maybe this is something you do or don't care about, but just seeing the young guys in the second half against FCS talent, whether it is, your backup quarterbacks, your Tommy Schusters, who I know it's not a young guy. This is the only year he's going to be here. But your younger guys, should they get down to the third strings like Rylan Jesse or Alessio Milivojevic, I just see how the young offensive linemen look against defensive linemen of the FCS level, because the skill gap isn't necessarily as drastic as it seems at some positions. So we'll just have to wait and see what that game is going to be like. If it is the way that Ray's saying, 45-0 at halftime, just focus on the young guys here. Now, K-Man writes in, who would you like to see Haller replace CMU with in 2027 and 2030? I personally would love to get a home-and-home with a spicy group of 5 team like Coastal Carolina or Tulane. Give the fans somewhere to go while not having to worry about the other team colluding with your rival to spy and cheat. No, I'm not going to go with spicy, actually, Cayman. I am going to be a coward. I do like that we're already talking about this question of who we're going to replace Central Michigan with in 27 to 2030, just assuming that future matchup with that school that welcomed with velvet rope and red carpet counter stallions in their sideline, just assuming that that's going to be gone for the future. But no, I do not need spice in my life. Life is hard enough, especially in this expanded Big Ten. But with that said, I'll give you some options here. How about FIU? Now, this isn't the T.Y. Hilton's FIU from many years back. They've been kind of middling. They've had no winning season since 2018. They are stationed in Miami. Great spot to travel for Michigan State fans. We stormed Hard Rock a few years ago for that game against the Hurricanes. Let's do the same in South Florida, but at a school that's much more easier to beat. The FIU Panthers. How about that? And also, hey, you can showcase MSU to Florida recruits. How about that? And Hawaii? Well, certainly I would go with that one too. And that's not just for traveling. Obviously, it's very hard to travel to Hawaii, but there is something about staying up until midnight to watch your team. We got to do it in, what was it, the PK 85 tournament not too long ago. That's when the real fans show up. If not, just on their couch, that's fine enough. There is some camaraderie around that. Or, you know what? Let's just get down to Bowling Green. Let's just take a trip down I-75 for all the Metro Detroit Spartans out there. Hey, you know what? The Ford Field game was fun for all of our Metro Detroit Spartans out there, myself included. Let's, take a few years off from that. But in the meantime, let's go down to Bowling Green, shot down 75, and let's just do it against those guys. Again, I like your tenacity, K-Man. I like it. You want to see Coastal Carolina or Tulane. Right now, those schools are just way too good. You just do not want to pile up losses where you just don't have to. And that would be a circumstance where, for non-conference, you don't want to just put yourself out there. At least I don't. But hey, for all those that are less of a coward than I am, good for you. All right, guys, we will be back on tomorrow's show. Any news that breaks, you know where to find it. Locked on Spartans. Until next time, love you all. Go Green.